World of Warcraft lore, the Titan Imposter. Uh-oh.
So, today I want to cover a little bit of a wild theory. Mostly because it has been swimming around my head for a while, and I need to let it out.
Good reason.
What if I told you that there are imposters among the Titans?
I'd believe that.
That perhaps Azeroth is a Titan after all. But what we think we know about Titans may just be wrong.
Yeah, probably.
Before we truly begin, I would like to clarify the elephant in the room. That is, of course, the Chronicles books. I know that it gets thrown around a lot that they were told from the perspective of the Pantheon and should be taken with a grain of salt.
No, that's not what we were told at all. We were told that some of the perspectives in Chronicle include the Titans and those who serve the Titans. There are also a lot of other perspectives, right? Like the Black Empire was this huge swath of history. But the Titans only give it a little section in Chronicle. Right, so Steve's trying to say that, yes, it is written from a Titan perspective. It doesn't mean you take it with a grain of salt. You know? Let's start with that. But regardless.
The Chronicles books. I know that it gets thrown around a lot that they were told from the perspective of the Pantheon and should be taken with a grain of salt. That is, of course, true. However, it does not mean we should dismiss everything. We should assume most of this is correct with omission or obfuscation.
Yeah. Yep, I should have let him speak. Should have let him cook. Should have let him cook there. I agree.
This theory stays within those boundaries. At least I hope. So first of all, what is a Titan? The Chronicles describe them as a race of colossal, planet-sized beings composed of primordial matter and arcane energy from which the very universe was born. This does seem like an apt description, however. Let's grain of salt this a little. We have since learned the universe, or the Great Framework, is made up of much more than just arcane energy. Since we know the Pantheon is far more concerned with arcane or order, then let us assume that the Titans are composed of a multitude of primordial energies, that they are in fact a sum of the Great Framework's design. Now, of course, the Pantheon of Order has become synonymous with the word Titan, but what if only some of them were? Amanthul was said to be the first to awaken, and as being the first, we have to take his word on it. They just suddenly woke and knew his purpose. But if we look at the Pantheon as a whole, something seems off. I will now just give you the theory in full, and then afterward, we can dissect it and see what supporting evidence there is. And then, as always,
this is some kind of like fan-made thing that he's showing right here. I don't know what this is, but this isn't like, I don't know, whatever this is not like official. Maybe this is like the alpha build or beta build or something of the Seat of the Pantheon, but
leave it to you to decide if I've gone too far down the rabbit hole on this one. Amanthul, Golganath, and Norgannon, the three eldest members of the Pantheon, are not Titans. They were not born from world souls. In fact, they are the only true members of the Pantheon of Order. I would
agree with that, actually. Yeah. I'd actually get behind that. I don't know if I'd say that they weren't born from world souls, or that they're not actually Titans, but I would agree that they are like the three most aligned directly with Order, and I think that them being Aesir is what gives that away.
This was a little crazy.
Especially Norgannon.
Many long ages ago, but still long after the building of the Great Framework, something happened. Something so terrifying that it caused a great imbalance among the forces of the universe. What this is, we cannot say, but it caused a great frenzy, and each force prepared for war.
Could have been the rise of mortals or something. Usually mortals have something to do with that, or could have been, well, I'll let them cook.
Each would attempt to consolidate their power, all that remained of the first ones, and their mandates were their crumbling ruins. Now alone, they each scrambled to control the greatest weapons in the known universe. The world's souls. Shadow would send out seeds of the void to corrupt. The light would send shooting stars streaking through the skies. But Order itself had found a way in for themselves. Perhaps it is their ordered nature that allows them easier access to the physical world. Perhaps their command over the arcane.
I think that there's also a possibility that we are in the realm of Order, but it doesn't have to go that deep. But I think there's, I don't know, there's a good chance of that.
What we do know is, three brothers would find the slumbering world souls, infusing them with vast amounts of scintillating arcane energy, altering their form and temperament. One by one, their pantheon grew. The world's souls, each carefully controlled.
And it never says in Chronicle why exactly the Titans came to believe that order was essential for what they were doing. It's never really explained like the logic of how they came to that conclusion.
Believe the words of the High Father unquestioningly. But as their power grew, so did the other forces muster in opposition. It was death who first foiled them, spies who infiltrated one of their order. They would use a similar tactic and then would turn him to chaos and shatter their unity for a time. It was for this very reason that Order has not claimed the greatest weapon of all, the last and the most powerful Titan of them all, Azeroth. But unknowingly, the children of this great world soul had set events in motion that may bring all of this to light. Now, if I had just heard this, I would have questions as any skeptical mind should, so I will attempt to answer some and give my reasons for reaching these conclusions. Firstly, while Aman'Thul is an obvious choice for initiating this plot if true, why Gol Ganeth and Norgannon specifically? This goes back to something from the World of Warcraft RPG. I fully realize this is not canon, but it does show that even during their inception, there was a clear distinction drawn between these three and the rest, that being the Aesir and the Vanir, inspired by Nordic myth. The Aesir were metallic in nature, rigid and ordered, more powerful and intelligent than the Vanir. Even in artwork now and their depictions in game, these three have far more relation to order than the others.
Masters of war.
Lightning, storms, memory, knowledge, and machines. These are the domains of the true sons of Order.
Yep.
Why do the Titans resemble the Pantheon of Order if they are not?
Very well said.
This is perhaps the easiest explanation. In the World of Warcraft universe, exposure to any sufficiently potent source of magic can completely alter the appearance of those affected. When Jaina was exposed to the mana bomb, her tears became...
At least it can with mortals. I wonder if there are limitations for eternal beings. Like I wonder if some eternal or if all eternal beings maybe have a more inherent kind of truth to their soul, or if it really is malleable, or their essence, or whatever you want to call it. But I wonder if like Eternals could have like a true and like bound by their existence type of nature, whereas like dragons and mortals and things like that are maybe more malleable to any kind of force. But because it says in Chronicle that the Titans are uniquely susceptible to fell magic, is what it says, right? So that that's outright states that other magics would not affect Titans as directly as something like fell. That's written in Chronicle, presumably by the admission of the Titans themselves, right? So it just makes me think, yeah, same with Naru. Could a Naru only really be light, void, or somewhere along the line of arcane or something like that? You know, we've never seen like a fire Naru, you know? We've never seen like a green nature Naru. We've seen Naru that are similar to that, you know, kind of bluish arcane color spectrum. But beings often, eternal beings, immortal beings, I feel are often more aligned with a cosmic power, which is part of why I think that it's very important that Sargeras appears as like orange fire, because I think that implies something about his true nature. That's what I think anyway. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is totally up for discussion, but I think that it's like we're told Titans are uniquely susceptible to Fel. We're then told in Chronicle that Sargeras has green Fel volcanoes on his body and stuff, and like emerald fire coming from his eyes. And it's like, well, but he doesn't when we finally see him. So is that an expression of like, even though he was maybe bombarded with Fel, like maybe the light or something in his soul stopped that from happening? Or was he really always fire? And they made it try to make it sound like he was some kind of dark, evil Fel magic, and the reveal that he was in fact not Fel could be, if he isn't Fel, which he doesn't appear to be, could be a great revelation in terms of like the truth of his power and aspect, and like what that means for the Burning Legion and those kinds of things is where it goes for me. Of like, it's pretty big implications if some of these things are true, but you know, just speculation.
Like falling stars, the dark trolls that were exposed to the energies of the Well of Eternity. They were irrevocably changed.
Or he was Fel and maybe got released from that and became fire. Yeah. Maybe when Sargeras is under the control of of the Titans, so to speak, of domination or something of that effect. Maybe he's not going to turn blue like this, like his model would suggest. I mean, it's actually fucking insane that this model exists in the game files. Like, do you realize like how insane that is, that this blue domination looking Sargeras exists in the fucking files? That's wild. It's actually crazy that that's a thing. So, but yeah, I also like the idea that the sword that Sargeras was wielding is sentient, probably was talking to him, and whether or not that was like a good thing or a bad thing, you know, if the blade sentience was Argus, then maybe, like I've said before, Argus has been talking to Sargeras through the blade for who knows how long. And what could he have been saying? What could Argus tell Sargeras that he otherwise may not know? They put a first one in the blade. I mean, kinda, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yes. Yes. Like, yeah. I think Sargeras wields like a massive Mournblade-esque weapon fueled by the soul of a first one. Yeah.
They lost those feral and natural qualities to resemble the Titans themselves. Their forms were shaped by exposure. We see this again in the very same night elves they became.
I think they can be shaped to a degree. Like, I think Agrimar is a good proof of this. Where, like, Agrimar, when we come across him, is all fire and stuff, and he's bent to the will of Sargeras, as it seems. Even though he's, you know, whatever. And then we see him almost immediately after in this more orderly form. So I think, in my opinion, I really think the body and form is like really important. Like, magic is important, yes, but we learned with the jailer that magics, is specifically control magics, can be etched upon the fabric of a vessel. That is to say that, like, if the Titan spirits, similar to the Eternal ones, are bound to a form of arcane vessel, then they may be bound by certain laws and rules of the arcane, or of order, right? Maybe form determines language. I think language is a big part of it, Picard, yes. Perhaps it is the language of order inscribed, for me, I think it's more the language of order inscribed upon their forms, which I think Norganon is responsible for. And I think that it is very similar to domination in that regard of, like, if you can get this language, these runes of power exerted upon something, that language can basically, like, altered. I think it's the other way around. I think the language can determine the form. So if you etch something upon Zoval, that is domination and order and death or whatever, then the outward reflection will, I think, probably represent the language that's being used. Does that make sense? So in a way, if you were to use demonic language, demonic techniques, then things that are produced by that are going to result in more demonic traits and attributes. And I think that would be the same for anything. And that's part of why I think the Titans all look so similar. I don't think that they're necessarily meant to be. So can you use Shathyar to turn things to void? Well, I think that we've seen rituals in which old god devotees have spoken Shathyar in those rituals as a means to evoke transformation. Yes, I do think that the Shathyar language is very important in terms of transformation. You know, I think things like the Faceless Ones or some of the original bestial races like Nerubians and things of like that, those could have come about as the result of certain languages or things like that being, you know, incorporated into ritual, into sacrifice, into ascension. And that's maybe how you got these maybe like greater races or whatever they are. Like, I don't know, there's opportunity there. That's very, gets into like StarCrafty almost, I think, but fuck it.
After the Sundering, when they began to practice druidism and harmony with nature once more, the druids were exposed to intense life energies of the Emerald Dream. Some grew feathers or antlers just like Malfurion. If these titans were imbued with sufficient arcane energy, it makes sense they too would be altered by it. More recently, we have confirmation that exposure can even alter temperament. The dragons were wild and chaotic, like the elements themselves, until exposed arcane energy that made them more docile.
Yep.
If true, then what does this mean for Sargeras? I have pondered this question myself. Did he know? After seeing the Void do the same thing to another Titan that was done to him.
Did he know? I mean, look at what he's wielding. In every fucking picture of this guy, in his titanic form, even the one where he's cleaving the world in two. I think that, yes, he did find out what had happened. And what had happened was they gave him a blade that was being used to control his mind. Not that different from Andu and Rin. At all. Or Arthas. Or being inscribed upon his fucking body like Zoval. You can hardly see anything of Sargeras in this. You see, and look at how much attention they bring to the runes. This blade has been such a fucking overlooked thing that even in the comic books, they bring so much attention to his sword. The way that he holds it up in the sky, and the light is like shimmering off of it. Look at how much attention they draw to the blue runes all over him. Sargeras' blade is clearly a Morn blade. At least the one that he was wielding in these depictions. And it might be that what we know as his sword now is a different or altered, crudely shapen or transmuted blade of some kind. But it's pretty clear what they were doing to him. I mean, look at this. Like, look. Look at this.
While I do like the idea of Sargeras the Liberator, how he could be trying to free Azeroth from her chains rather than destroy, it just does not sit all that well with his character.
I disagree. I think that the way that they depict Sargeras in early Chronicle is exactly what this is. He loved life more than anything else. He loved looking out upon the worlds that they had ordered and seeing the civilizations thrive and that stuff. He loved it. It was his most adored thing. I think that a lot of people only know Sargeras as the leader of the Burning Legion. And I think that many people don't really know about those details of the early days and why he did what he did. The lengths he went to search for a solution. And the hilarious similarities between how the Titans were searching for world souls and how the Void Lords were searching for world souls. Then we find out in Shadowlands that the fucking Dreadlords literally lied. They said, we sow lies in the midst of the Void Lords. Like, we're lying in their, you know, we're positioning them as a foil to our other rivals. They literally exaggerated what the Void Lords are and what they were doing as a means of manipulating Sargeras. That was their intention. It's pretty wild.
Perhaps he did know, and the fell energy.
Aman'Thul does appear more priest-like, I agree.
From seeing the Void do the same thing to another Titan that was done to him. Is that what really broke him? While I do like the idea of Sargeras the Liberator, how he could be trying to free Azeroth from her chains rather than destroy, it just does not sit all that well with his character. Perhaps he did know, and the fell energy that freed him from his arcane bonds made him just a little too irrational and crazy. That would certainly track. I do feel the more I look over Blizzard's recent writing, this does seem to align.
Especially
All
with
throughout
Farak.
Dragonflight, we had evidence of Titan machinery, some designed for coercion, subversion, and others control. Without spoilers, this is not slowing down in the war within. The Titan Forge will go to extreme lengths to retain order and control, as we will all see soon enough. Originally, I was pondering why Eonar and Khazgorath in specific were so anomalous to a pantheon of order. While imposing some structure with life magic made sense, her relationship to Elune and her ideals do not fully sit right through the lens of order. In all honesty, there are some areas that need further exploration and more evidence, but if I were a betting man, I do believe this is the path the story is taking.
Yep.
Freedom is what we are ultimately fighting for.
Yep.
The end of control.
Yep.
But tell me what you think. Is Aman'Thul an imposter? Or maybe you have a better idea. As always, I love to hear it. Thank you all for all the support
video.
and the amazing comments.
I like this.
You have no idea how much they mean.
I like this train of thought here. Very good video. I like that a lot.